So you are still on the East Coast right now, is that right?
I'm in New York. Yep.
So when are you heading to Vegas?
I'll be there Tuesday, leaving Tuesday.
Okay. So it's well documented that your teammate Lyman Good was unable to fight earlier this year, largely due to COVID-19. And there have been a lot of circumstances affecting you guys in the tri-state area that maybe other Americans or people globally are blind to. So walk us through a day in New York, man, and what it's been like sort of going through this quarantine as a father and a fighter with these limitations.
I'll start as a father. My daughter is over this. My daughter's 3 years old. She's so over the mask, and she didn't understand why she cousins for a while. Finally, it calmed down, so now we're somewhat back. I'd say we're basically back to normal. The only thing that's different is she has to wear a mask if I have to take her to the grocery store, like when I go grocery shopping. And she hates. We call it Doctor Day, and she's like, "No, is it still Doctor Day? I don't want to wear a mask." So she's over it. As a fighter, at first it was a little tricky getting the training in, but I basically kept the ball rolling. Like you said, Lyman had a fight. We were at the UFC's PI back in March. We got back, and 10 days later, the state basically shut down. And then, like 14 days later, he actually contracted COVID. So I was, in my mind, I'm like, I definitely have it. And then two of my coaches actually got it. So I was like, oh man, there's no way I don't have it. I was with them all the time. I was with them for like 5-6 days a week. And I actually just got the antibody test day before yesterday, and I never had it, and I don't have it. So
good. 29 years young, baby. So in terms of the training, you mentioned that it was a little bit impacted. Are the Tiger Schulman schools across New York still closed? Is that?
Yeah, those are all still closed. Our headquarters, our main gym is open though. So we've been getting our training like normal.
So let's get to this matchup. I mean, certainly you're on social media. You understand the reverberations from fight fans. We are excited about this fight. I'd imagine you are too, taking on the number 8 ranked guy in the world.
Oh yeah, man. This is aside from the fact that he's ranked ahead of me, which excites out of me. The stylistic matchup is just a fun matchup. Like it's one of those fights that I'm like, yeah, this is one of those. Like I'm excited for it. And I'm such a big fight fan that I can only imagine how excited the fans are. This one's gonna be a banger. You could run this fight 100 times. There's not one time that this one's gonna be boring.
Yeah, it looks like bulletproof matchmaking to me. So as far as the opponent is concerned, he's undersized, at least in terms of the height a little bit, but there's no denying the overall girth and power and everything that he brings to the table. How do you handicap the matchup?
Yeah, 100%. But I've been training with a lot of guys that are 155ers that are a little bit shorter than me, similar build, similar styles. Jimmy Rivera, one of my main training partners too. He's got a similar build, similar style to him too. And Jimmy's one of the best boxers, best strikers in the division. So I think I'm more than well prepared for this fight.
So 6-1 in the UFC. There's been a lot of hype and expectations placed upon you dating to your UFC debut. We talked about it then. Now we can talk about the body of work. I know your end game is the undisputed UFC Featherweight Championship, but how would you assess what you've put on film and on paper thus far?
I'm content with it, I would say. This is the one where I feel like it's all culminating to this position where I'm in this co-main event spot, and I don't want to just skate by and get a win. And I want to win emphatically. And obviously you always want to do that, but this is such a big opportunity for me. I'm the co-main event right now. A lot of eyeballs are going to be in this card. It's a free card, which I'm excited about too. And up there and get not just a win, but a statement. You go out there and let know that, because I feel like I'm the dark horse. I don't really get that much respect in the division, I feel like. And I feel like going out there and not only beating Josh Emmett, but putting him away and finishing him, that's gonna push me over that edge. And that's the body of work that I'm gonna be most proud of.
In terms of the division, I've heard a lot of featherweights, Calvin Kattar most recently, talk about having more respect being placed on their name, because maybe there are veterans that are either clogging up the rankings or taking the headlines. But when you look at this division in terms of expediting a title run, I mean, certainly it's good that Holloway and Volkanovski are going to run it back, and that will provide some clarity. But what are your goals realistically in terms of how soon you can actually find yourself in that top 5 and in title eliminator type of settings?
Yeah, after this one, I feel like I beat him. That puts me at 8 automatically in my mind. Aside from that, I don't know how the rest of the division is going to play out. There's a lot of there's nobody else really matched up in the top 10 aside from the champ and Holloway. So you got a bunch of matchups that are in the works. So after this fight, if none of those fights materialize, then hopefully I can jump in and grab one of the guys that are ahead of me. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right. So Dustin Poirier is going to join us later. I'm going to ask him this same question. The octagon, 25 feet versus 30 feet. That doesn't even begin to describe it, right? It's essentially 30% smaller in terms of the square footage. I feel like I'm watching a little bit of a different sport, but I'm the amateur. You're the pro fighter. Have you and the coaches talked at all about navigating a different sized octagon and how it might affect the fight?
I think it's actually harder to go from a smaller octagon to a bigger octagon. Going from a bigger one to a smaller one, this is I actually like it because, one, I train in a smaller octagon anyway. The octagon I train isn't even as big as the 25-footer. And not only that, I mean, I'm sure I know you've watched every single fight that's been at the Apex the last couple of weeks. And what do you think of the cards? I think they've been bangers. They've been awesome fights the entire time. And I think that attributes to that smaller octagon because there's not that much space to run. And when guys are getting taken down, the cage is right there so they can bounce back up. They can wall walk up. So it forces I love that. I love fighting in smaller cages.
Yeah, and I do think statistically the numbers would back up everything you're saying in terms of the finishes. Do you feel like it favors grapplers or not necessarily?
Oh, I actually think the opposite. I think it favors strikers or strikers that have good takedown defense, I would say. Those guys that are good at getting up off their back and using the wall.
Okay. All right. Before I let you go, the Shulman brothers, Tiger Shulman, they've yet to produce a UFC champion unless I'm mistaken. And most people look at you as the guy, at least right now, who has the best chance to break through. What would it mean to come through for Lyman and Jimmy and Julio Arce and the coaches and everybody else to be Tiger Shulman's first UFC champion?
Oh, man, that would mean the world to me. But there's no competition with me. I'm rooting for my brothers, man. I want them to be UFC champions as well. And I wish you can come to the gym and see how good our amateur team is, man. We've got guys from amateurs that are just so good, all up to the pros like Lyman and Jimmy and all the ones that we mentioned, Mike Trezano, Julio. But to be the first champion, you can't really put that in words. I'll let you know after that happens because it's going to happen.
Are your younger brothers still training?
Yeah, my brother's actually in the house right now. We just got back from training.
All right, good. All right, Shane Burgos faces Josh Emmett June 20th. That is your co-main event for UFC Fight Night. Blades versus Volkov. You can see it all play out next Saturday on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Appreciate your time, my man, and look forward to seeing you from a distance in Vegas next week, Shane. I wish you all the best against Josh.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.